what we were trying to do is get as many people as possible trying our pizza, and we would sell out. We got more people than we had pizza a lot of time. People sometimes complained, and even people in the industry, they would come from pizzerias and other places, and they would be pissed that it's why didn't you guys do more? And they don't realize how small the place is in the back. Like nowadays, we moved into a commissary. We're growing. Not only the capacity, it was 3 of us. I mean, it started 1 guy making pizza, then 3 guys making pizza. Nowadays, there's 20 of us working in this project, which is like an honor and mind-blowing and amazing. It's, we didn't, even in our wildest dreams, we didn't think this was going to turn out this way.
Have you decided what you're going to get?
Oh yeah, definitely we're going to get one of each.
One of each. Got it.
Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of One of Each. If you're here for the first time, this is a space where basically I speak with friends about food, of course, about their journeys in the food business, or even if they are part of another business, but everybody enjoys a good meal, traveling for food. So this is the space where we talk about it, we share those experiences. And today, I want to say it's a special, but I think all my guests are special. If they weren't, I wouldn't probably invite them. Just kidding. But Alejandro, I'm so happy to have you here. Alejandro Díaz, founder of Miami Slice, entrepreneur. You've been in the food industry, in the hospitality business for a while. So we want to hear that story. I'm a big fan as a businessman and as an eater, I'm a big fan of what you've done. And I'm going to start with, like, it happens to me and from different sides. Like when people look at somebody's business, they just see what's public and say, oh, you're killing it or something. And they don't understand sometimes what happens inside or the struggles of a successful business. So we want to talk to you about that, but I will tell you you run a successful business with Miami Slice. We've seen the lines, we've seen the hype, so we want to learn more about it. And also, I know you had some businesses back in Venezuela in the food industry. You are a partner at La Latina. So first of all, welcome.
Pleasure to be here. Pleasure to be invited. It's an honor.
I always start by asking, because of course, we're here for a reason. We are in the food industry, or we love food. And I always start by asking, also relating with my personal story, what got you into the food business, into the hospitality business? Because we all know it's not easy money. It's a lot of work, many sacrifices. So how did you get in the business? Was there something at home? People always mention here their grandma or their parents. What was the story in your case?
How much time do we have?
We have I don't know, like people's cell phone battery lasts like 12 hours. So try to
we'll keep it short.
Yeah,
I'll try. That's a fun one to go to. Yeah, I love your intro there between struggles and successes. There's usually a lot more struggles than successes. Yeah, I don't care who you are in this business, I guess I started connecting the dots to that question because I've had to kind of think about it and I've had those conversations recently. But I started connecting the dots later in life, like more recently than when I actually got in. I come from a family where all things food there's a big infatuation for food and all things food in general, right? It's one of those things that, the sandwiches that we took to school were special, big. My mom, big efforts on that,
Your classmates, same video.
Bro, we would trade them, you trade the sandwich for something, you do some kind of swap with somebody for sure. And then, or like might say my father's brunch, if he was going to do something in the weekends, and it was great. Like it was always thought of, the way that he would make the eggs, or the way, again, it's like just there was always details. Like we would eat arepas pretty much every night in my house, but it had to be like the arepas were, there was always something. There was almost like a little story. We had to be toasted, put it first on the plancha, and then you put them there was always a process. It was always, they had to be crunchy, but not stiff. It was just like everything that we did with food had to be like super thought out. It was a kind of house that if we had a group project with friends, friends wanted to come. Like they wanted to do the group project in our house because of the food.
Yeah, it happened to me was the same because at home there was always cake. Like no matter when, there was always a cake at home.
Okay.
And all my friends wanted to always go.
It was similar. Like there were things that were, I would say, we didn't realize when you're that young that they're special. But then you start understanding, especially as you grow up, or as you started growing up more, or even high school, or you'd go out to eat at other friends' houses, and you'd see the way they would handle certain foods. But you realize that it wasn't centric to our house specifically, or to our household. We had I remember a few things. Like for example, we had in our house the asado negro was special. It was one of those things, or el pabellón was special, and things like that were special to us, right? And leftovers of la Venezuelan lasagna, pasticho.
Sí.
I mean, we would fight over it, and if my friends would come home and they would try to eat my brother's leftovers, like that kind of situation was.
And next day
happening.
lasagna.
Yeah, it was like, it was mine, don't touch. Like that kind of situation happened, right? But I also, and this is, I remember at a certain point I had corporate office job, and I went to eat at my friend's Lebanese, right? Oh. And it was the same situation, right? It was there's very meticulous, everything there. So back to kind of your question is, I didn't realize that was just but it was part of our lifestyle. I was, the panaderías venezolanas, the bakeries venezolanas. So I loved certain kinds, like the Linzer tarts, because I'm all the way. For us.
Yes.
I would know which one had the best one. I would check them out.
I remember the ones from San Honoré in Los Palos Grandes.
For ejemplo,
those were amazing.
I would walk into La Anubio, who's a good friend of ours, and I would go in the back. You were young. We were waiting between soccer, between playing soccer and between school and going to soccer practice. We would wait at at La Anubio. And it's things like that. Just going in there and being exposed to all these things. It was being at a toy store. Yeah. But the truth is, you didn't realize how special it was to be exposed to that, and to kind of, we were talking about it before we walked in, kind of developing that palate. Absolutely. And understanding what we thought was good or wasn't good. I didn't know that I was going to work in that as I grew up, right? Okay. I'll tell you how I got into that mess in a second, right? So long story short of that situation, I come from a family where those things happen. A grandfather that would walk into restaurants and literally ask the chefs for their recipes, and we have a book of my grandfather's recipes that he got from restaurants in Europe. Craziness. You still have it? I still have it. Yeah, well, my mom has it back home, crazy stories, and I didn't even connect to this. We would used to go, do you remember El Camineto? Yes. In Caracas. Okay.
Amazing Italian restaurant.
In Venezuela. Crazy story like that, right? I was a little kid, and I would ask the chef, I would please, just one half of the pasta with red sauce, the other half of the pasta with cream sauce, right? And with white sauce. And he would he would joke around. He would bring me into the kitchen. At one point, he gifted me the chef's hat. I didn't even know those things were even going to be relevant. And some of these I had kind of forgotten about until you called me and were look, we're going to talk for an hour. And I'm holy, okay, I'm going to try. And so I kind of brought some of those things back. But all of this is basically to say that food was always a part of our lifestyle and what we did. So business side of it is after living I went to college in Denver and then moved to New York. I remember you visiting there at some point. Good friends of my brother, my younger brother. We went back home and we started a group of friends. Three of us started a slice shop, thinking it was going to be the easiest food business we could open, right? Which it's always a joke.
But you were doing that on a side,
I wasn't even.
You had a job.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't even the first one to operate the business. One of my partners, who's still there and still operates the business with my brother and the rest of the crew, at the time he was the one that started operating the business at the beginning. Obviously, there was a lot of passion in that project. It was a great project, but it wasn't easy at all. Let alone the whole pizza by the slice situation. Thinking that was going to be easy, not the case. But it was great, right? And another friend who I guess saw some of this food connection asked me. They had a restaurant business situation they were getting into, and at the end of the day, he asked me to help with that, which is in fact where I met Chema and Alberto, the crew with which who are also co-owners of all the group. Yeah, Miami Slice and La Latina and everything. And I'll get to that. But that's where I worked with them full circle. Nowadays, now we partnered up in the restaurant group here, right? Which is different from the one in Venezuela. Big shout out to the partners in Pizza Caracas, who's a great group there.
I remember that place.
Yeah, I'll tell you some things I remember about when you had pop-ups in Caracas a long time ago. Gastropop, well, long time ago.
Wow.
But shout out to my partners there. The Pizza Caracas was a successful business, and then we started operating. Like we started jumping on board and working. The project turned out to be.
But at some point, you quit your 9-to-5 corporate job to put all your time into that business.
It's a longer story than that, and that's what I'm saying. Like we'll probably edit that out.
Maybe not.
Who knows, right? Who knows how interesting that could be? No, so I quit my corporate job to help the group that was requiring help in the restaurant groups from a business perspective, which is where I met my partners that I now, my partners here. And then that was a short-lived project for other circumstances, and I started operating with the group at Pizza Caracas. And in those 2 years, we grew from, we had one Pizza Caracas, another concept, Prana. Again, I didn't want to get into this, but in that time, we grew from two locations to 5 between a couple of different concepts.
Why do you want us to edit that? We're not cutting it.
Yeah, you can. Who knows? Who knows why? So we grew that, and then Venezuela started getting pretty nasty.
Cut that
part. We started I want to say 2017-ish, I met my girlfriend, who is now my wife. We fell in love. She has the Hungry Post here. So I started traveling more to Miami. And I started...
She was already here.
She was already here. Yeah, I met her there, but she was already here. And I started having conversations with other restaurateurs, connecting with them. And it was pretty clear to see that some of the issues that they were working on, we had been working on or had somehow solved in Caracas. So it was like, yeah, maybe we can make something happen here, right?
So you're telling me that the reason you moved to Miami wasn't a business but a woman?
That is usually how all good stories start. You know what I mean? It's the truth. We fell in love, and it became the excuse to really consider. It would have been a disservice to all the effort she had done in Miami to even consider bringing her to Venezuela.
Yeah,
it was not the time. I mean, timing was, and Venezuela at that time was not only was it was just very rowdy. Yeah, it was. I mean. And it was just, it was a pretty clear decision of what had to happen. And that is usually a good incentive to do things,
Absolutely.
Love is, I'm saying, women. My dad would laugh at that shit, But yeah, so moved here with the intention of opening Miami Slice.
You had already that plan.
Miami Slice. Boom, opening Miami Slice in Miami. There was not as many pizzerias as there are nowadays. So it was, I think it was an interesting proposal, let's say, but also, I'm also very thankful that fell through. We got outbid out of a space. We were getting into a space. At the end of the day, it wasn't for us, sort of thing. I'm glad we didn't get it, because nowadays I live in Miami. I know Miami better. I feel like I have a better feel for the kind of places where I would like to have restaurants, and that wouldn't have been a good fit. Wynwood. It's a. I know you get it. Yeah. But it's tough one, and I also don't want to knock on Wynwood. I mean, I think it works well for some types of concepts.
Absolutely, 100%.
It's more of a fit than anything else. So I think it was appropriate, and it also. In my personal journey, in the restaurant world, there's a lot of learning in the things that came before we opened Miami Slice. But I did come from Caracas there's a lot of resilience. It's just like just anything that we were used to. Changing prices twice a week, having huge issues with vendors, like
staff.
Staff. Well, we have huge staff, which comes. It's great. in a certain way, but it also, it's a lot of people that you want to be true with and try and support them as best they can. And so it's different challenges. But moving here, when we got outbid, that put us in a position where I personally needed a job, man. And that's where we got in touch with our friends from La Latina, a couple of partners there who were trying to sell the restaurant. We basically got in touch with each other, and it worked out well. And we got La Latina, and we didn't even really communicate, like new management and things like that. We were more concentrated on making sure that the concept was that we could, turn it around and make it successful and for what we needed, and making it a good landing.
And looking back at what you thought, would you consider that was a good decision? Like, are you happy?
Definitely.
Yeah, great.
Yeah,
I had dinner there 2 nights ago, actually. I was finishing tennis. I was starving, and I stopped for not one, but 2 arepas.
One of them must have been, I think you remember you do reina con queso de mano.
That's right. That's my favorite one.
It's a good combination. We see some crazy combinations. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I think it was a good decision. At the end of the day, we like to do things as a group, and we're very, I want to say, cohesive as partners, and we try and kind of make a lot of collective decisions and kind of make sure that everybody's in line with what we're trying to do. And I think that was appropriate. We didn't create necessarily the brand, and it poses different challenges. It gets you in a position where now you have to handle a brand that you really didn't necessarily create, or probably wouldn't have developed it that way. I know you develop brands, so you can probably relate to that. It's interesting to have to be able to handle that heritage of what that comes, and also give it your touch. Yeah, and also be able to.
But it was a nice brand. Like, it's you bought a nice brand. It's not something that you bought and you said, okay, I need to flip this.
No, we wouldn't have done that. Yeah. Probably we would have changed the name. We obviously had that discussion, and Yulene and Carlos, who actually founded the La Latina at the time, they did a good job of. I mean, they were very in line with the kind of things that we liked. Very homey arepas, the kind of arepas that you would eat at home. Just try and keep that part and make sure that we were doing it to the best of our abilities. And the name was very appropriate, and we at the time thought that it could be a name and a concept that could, at the end of X amount of years, resonate with the American community and get them in other cities perhaps as well, and perhaps grow the brand and get the arepa into. I know we've had this conversation in the past.
Yes, we'll discuss that.
I'm sure. But this, trying to get arepas in a way that would be digestible from a business perspective to the U.S. consumer. So that kind of thing was also relevant in the conversation. But I think we did well in kind of revamping it and using La Latina as a starting point for what would be our operations operating restaurants in Miami. So that's kind of worked, and that's more or less how I got into restaurants.
Interesting. But then let's talk about Miami Slice specifically. And I remember you were running La Latina. We were doing different things. I remember once I had forgotten. I just remember 1 minute ago we did like a pop-up at the band show in Miami. I invited you,
of course,
to do arepas and we were doing burgers. I remember you killed it. It was who was playing? I think it was Rye.
It was Rye.
Yeah, that was a magic
and it was
night.
Good. It was great, and it was right before. I remember that because that was a turning point for a couple of reasons. The first one was the pandemic hit right after that.
Yes.
And we had just gotten into the groove of doing events like that, and we had basically had the conversation without a signed agreement or anything. But it was there's going to be more concerts coming in.
Exactly.
We need a lineup of vendors that come in often. So whenever it was relevant, we would do arepas. And
Little did we know.
No, and for us it was tough because those days. See, those are crazy days. We have pictures of those. I wish I could share those, because they're hilarious in a way that we would do that. Get ourselves in a van, come back, load, unload, or I should say unload at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
there was only a few of us. Like there was a lot, very hands-on. It's one of those things that people tell you, like, those are the days you're gonna remember. Yeah, you're gonna remember them. They were fun, but they were also super rough.
Yeah. But then going back I was going back to Miami Slice. I just remember.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah,
I remember those days. That was
you
great.
Started baking. I mean, first let us know how you got into, because you're not you didn't go to culinary school.
Yeah.
Definitely you're not Italian, or you didn't go to Napoli to learn and master pizza. How did you get into pizza? And I remember, I'm gonna fast forward your own story. I remember you were baking pizzas in the back of La Latina, and
Yeah.
I was once with David, and you showed up and you were testing some pizza. We're gonna talk about it. But how was that process? Like you mentioned you learned to do the dough, like watching videos on YouTube and reading.
Yeah, that was out of necessity, and it was. So let's say the pandemic hit, and it was one of those. We had another lease on a second location for Miami Slice, and when the pandemic hit, we clearly had to pull out of that space as well. So it was like the second time that the Miami Slice project was halted.
And where was that one?
Right next door to La Latina.
Okay.
So it was a couple doors down. So we were trying to
Midtown.
Yeah. And I remember thinking at the time, like, okay, we can't let this like die again, or not die, but like put on hold again, right? Trying to be dramatic, but yeah, that's where a little bit of the Venezuelan resilience and coming, like it was fresh. It was like one of those, like, okay, we're not gonna stop. And so at the time of the pandemic, we really concentrated, like the three of us partners at the time, like Chema and Pepo and I, had to really get hands on. It was. At the real beginning, like right when it happened, nobody even wanted to go to work.
Yeah.
So it was just us, and we would like do different shifts, and one of us had like a full day worth of shift, and the other two would swap and one would do the morning, the other one would do the afternoon.
So you wouldn't be like two of you at a time.
There would always be two of us at a time.
Okay.
But one would work full day.
Okay.
Like one would double.
Wow.
And it was crazy. That lasted until people started coming back to work, because then people needed the job, because everybody had commitments and it was, but it was just very rough, is what I'm saying, right? And then that kind of turned into, we were thankfully very ready to attack the whole online ordering, takeout, bring it in, we would bring it to the door, like those kind of situations. We were very ready for. I want to say part of that Venezuelan kind of mindset of, okay, well, let's just adapt to this and let's go.
Yeah.
We were coming from having to adapt to things that were, completely chaotic and catastrophic. Yeah. So I'm not saying this was as well, but it was also like one of those, like stopping was not an option sort of thing. And that was kind of the mindset with which I tried getting people to help me out with the dough, as we did in Venezuela at the time. Like one of my partners had an American guy help us out with the dough, and thankfully, because none of us were culinarily trained, but I did know what pizza I wanted. Okay, and
what pizza do you want? Like something you tried?
I knew I wanted a crunchy pizza. I knew I wanted it to be airy, light. It couldn't be stiff, like little things like that. It didn't have to be overly filled and packed with ingredients. It had to be elevated in a way that you could eat it with one hand, like the kind of pizza that I guess in my mind, we all wanted, So the truth is, like, I knew what pizza I wanted. I needed somebody to help me craft that, right? And I started making calls. And go ahead.
No, at the time there was like a target. Like, what was your perfect pizza at the time? Like something you tried, or
no?
It was something in your mind, like, okay, I want this flavor, but this.
I didn't. I hadn't. I actually no, and that's a good question. I didn't craft it based on like, I wanted to be similar to this other restaurant. No, that wasn't the case. What did happen is, as I started making calls and trying to see if I wanted a New York style pizza. That was the DNA, which is the same kind of pizza that we have in Caracas. O sea, different dough, but same DNA. Right? New York style pizza, right? Like New York style slices. As I started trying to get somebody to kind of help me out, reaching out to people, and it was either inexplicably expensive, like crazy expensive because of kind of the pandemic and what that would entail. Or just people were not like, this is not the time to do it. Like they weren't really willing to do it. And I had to kind of jump on the grenade, which nowadays it sounds great. Like, oh, you crafted the dough, right? But that could have been a complete disaster. And it was very risky. at the time. I remember thinking and being very anxious about like, okay, I'm gonna actually take on this. Like I'm gonna take on this challenge. This is gonna be tough, right? And at the same time, it's not like it was like, okay, I'm gonna take a vacation of 6 months and do this. It was more so, having to do the job continued, work continued, but then you had to also try and do this. At the same time, kind of, and so I started learning more, right? YouTube is a great source of information nowadays. My wife always jokes to me like, you should need to tell people that you learn by watching YouTube, but you don't learn by watching the how to make pizza dough. Those are not going to be the videos where you're going to learn. You actually learn, like I remember seeing like a 45-minute symposium on dough where the guys were talking about dough for 45 minutes and
super geeky.
You had to geek out on this to learn, right? But I also fell asleep a million times to this because it was usually later in the night that I would have the time to get in. But like, let's say at minute 40 out of the 45, you'd hear somebody say like, and so I did this and that fixed my issue. And I'm like, oh, claro, weón. O sea, that's what I've been happening. I would come the next day and speak to my partners, marico, no saben, weón, logré la vaina, este es el peo, I'm going to try this out, I'm going to see if it works. So a lot of enthusiasm from a team's perspective, because that was also great. But the first pizzas were terrible. Like trial and error, mostly error. Does that make sense? Like it was like... But at that same time, a lot of progress. It took a long time. It took like, I'm going to say like 5 months to nail it, like, or a little under 5 months.
And during those 5 months, you were not selling pizza. You were just like giving it to friends.
We were giving it to some friends. Okay. And some friends had better experiences than others. The story I gave, the story is funny because this one's, I say that I've said this a couple of times. Your ear must have rung at some point because we've said this, we've had to say these stories. So we would try. The way I'd go about this is really trying out, like, I would do different tests and like kind of iterations to kind of see how it worked and how things work and try out ingredients. And it was obviously very like super meticulous about cheese, tomato, and all those things.
And did you test, for example, you do it today, what happens to this pizza the next day or things like that? Like
not really.
Okay.
Like the next day was never one of those things. It was always very small batch as well. But at the time I was more so concentrating. You asked about whether we're Italian and whatnot. I think we didn't realize at the time as well how big of a melting pot Caracas was to grow up in.
Yeah.
Like, French cuisine, Italian cuisine, Portuguese, Spanish,
bakeries,
Lebanese, Lebanese. We didn't realize it as we were talking about outside. Like the developing the palate, you weren't even aware that this was happening, but you did have a feel. Like one of my partners in the restaurants back home, Italian. And I remember in my house, we were very meticulous about the Venezuelan food that we ate. His house was all Italian food, and they were just as picky about the pasta, right?
Okay.
So, and the pasta sauces. So I don't know if you can tell, but our pizzas here are like the profile, the flavor profile is more Italian they don't say the tomatoes and all those sort of things, even though like we're not San Marzano tomatoes and we don't promote things like that. They were unnecessary. But I remember trying like 20 types of tomatoes and to kind of land at what I liked or what I envisioned would be a good taste. So that was kind of the process, right? Like a lot of trial and error, very meticulous, and trying to learn from. You're asking references about the pizzas. In the process, I would see guys that were doing amazing things in cities that I've never even traveled to. I still haven't been able to. I haven't even tried some of these pizzas.
So it wasn't only the dough. Like you had to figure out the cheese or the combination of cheeses, the tomato. I mean, time in the oven, temperature, everything. So many things. Even from the mixer, like you start realizing there's so many moving parts. And the more, especially at the beginning, the more I started to learn, it was great because, you got a lot of enthusiasm in that part, but you also start understanding, okay, now we have to master this element and then this element. So it was a good challenge, but it was a tough challenge, but it was very rewarding because every time you did something good and you nailed it, it kind of drove the enthusiasm to do the next step and to kind of crank it up a little bit. And you would be like taking notes, recording everything.
Like crazy. So, not like crazy, but we had to document, like I had to document everything and every trial. And I would say we would do like groups. We would have people come together and try the pizza, and we would document what people would say. Like, this one was too tough on the jaw, and I'm like, I know, I knew it, and sort of thing. But we would try different ones. So it was also interesting to see how every element would play on this, and how you could literally tweak the recipe by doing different things in the process, or changing certain ingredients. Yeah.
So at this point, you pretty much, I mean, you knew what was going on in the process. You knew the thought process of developing the dough. So if I told you it's a little bit too chewy, you could know how to make it less chewy by all the...
I would say I started learning, right? Like I don't say, this is very important, like I don't consider, even now, I don't consider myself to be a dough master. I'm a master in my dough.
Fair enough.
Which is all that we needed, you know what I mean, at the time.
Absolutely.
And we were very honest with each other. Like when I would bring a pizza and my partners would try it and it was shit, they would say it was shit. You know, it was pretty straightforward. We don't get offended easily, and that's kind of a cultural thing that we've involved. Like, don't get offended easily. It's never personal. Take it, and you know.
No, I remember that test you did. I remember it was like leeks and cheese, and you.
It was a leeks on bacon, and we were testing. That one day, I was tried swapping one of the cheeses, and it turned out to be the greasiest cheese we tried. We didn't use it again. Funny. And it was. I remember you could actually see it. It was bad, and I remember giving it to you and saying like, "Coño, o sea, te la voy a dar." O sea, te la voy a entregar, pero porque te la voy a dar, se lo vas a tener que editar. Eso no lo puedes decir en una cocina que está.
But I remember you sent us 2 or 3 pies, and that was the only one that it wasn't that good.
And I was basically, when I handed to you, I was expecting the criticism, and the one part you have to be. This was one of the things that, on a personal level, and I say this to people, whoever, that are trying to develop things, and it was a challenge for me to get into this mindset, which is, you have to feel comfortable doing things that are going to be wrong. More than likely, in your rookie years, you're going to screw up a million times.
Absolutely, but also it's important because, I mean, you give it, and again, this happens at like friends and family at restaurants and everything. Who you invite, like. If I know I'm giving you a dish that is shit or it's not that good, and you want me to feel good, and you're like, oh, it's amazing, I love it. Dude, I mean, I know it's not amazing. Don't lie to me, and I won't invite you to my next friends and family. No.
Well, fast forward. At some point, we'll discuss it. Fast forward. We've gotten some people coming to the slice shop, like I'm gonna say Alberto Adrián, or we've had Gaston Alcurio coming in, and we were just as nervous as when we sent you that one fight that we knew was off. You know, this is great, but we also like, you know, it's always subjective, right? Like we've gotten people that are. They prefer Neapolitan style pizzas. You can't fight with that. You know what I mean? So you have to be really open. It's the nature of the beast,
and
I guess.
That's the beauty with pizza. And we were talking like when you came here 2017, I moved here 2015. I remember 2015, I think it was Stanzione and Lucali. Those are the two places where I could get pizza.
100%.
I don't know. Sorry if there was somebody else out there.
No, there's a few. You could say there was Steve up north, and it was a slice shop. But yeah, in the area, you could argue. And yeah, there was not a lot of slice shops.
Thankfully, it's like there's at least, I don't know, 5-6 places where I think you can get a decent pizza, and you can choose. You want my New York slice, you want Napolitan, you want Detroit style. I mean,
and that you could say Casolas was also around, like Pucci was also around. There was a lot of slice shops. I mean, but there was not. It's like classic slice shops, like your neighborhood slice shop that you would go to and whatnot. But yes, I think the pizza scene started getting more complex and more competitive during and after the pandemic. A lot of concepts from other cities started coming. For us, it was also like competitively a challenge, and we wanted to make sure that we did things right. Another story that's funny is Diego Oca, who actually brought those chefs, the big chefs that come. Diego has brought them, most of them, and it's been for us like humbling to have these people come to the size bar. For us, it's been amazing. No, I had one with Diego. I had an issue with the oven that day.
Wow.
And
when Gaston was there?
No. At the beginning, like trial. So he tries the pizza for the first time. Diego's like, oh my God, I love this pizza. We're like, no way. So we're excited about it. He gets it a second time, I think. It was the second time or the third time. He gets it. And I met Diego through my wife, through Alejandra.
Who Diego was here in the show, so
At some point, okay, I'd love to hear his version of this story. Would have been amazing. He basically he gets it. We have no issue with the oven. Temperature's not right. It doesn't get crunchy basically at all. He takes the pizza. He's super nice, you know, Diego, right? He's super nice. And he asked me like, this is not the same dough that you guys used to use, right? And I'm very polite. I'm like, no, it's not the dough, it's the oven. But it's one of those. So we had issues with you, with Diego. You keep moving forward. But nowadays we joke about them. But at the time, they were tough. Like they were tough to take. Like us as a team internally, like we screwed it up. Like we gave Nidal the wrong one, or we gave Diego it's like
But now, and again, I'm gonna say this very, we say with pinzas in Spanish.
Yeah.
Miami Slice has been successful. You opened in Vegas. I know now it's summer and everything, but there's always lines in Miami Slice. Sometimes they were like 1 block long.
Yeah.
People getting frustrated because they've been waiting for an hour. That's great. For a restaurant, having such a big following, people wanting to go, also frustration of not being able to serve all these people. You want to probably have everybody walk in, have a slice, walk out. But how did you manage that buzz? It was hype, but it was hype with it was sustainable. Like it was delicious. You mentioned you were speaker at Lengua, and you talked that there's no hype if the product is not good at the end of the day, because the hype will be very short-lived.
You need to have substance behind the hype. I don't like the word hype because it basically entails in my mind that it's like overhyped, right?
Exactly.
It's like we got a lot of attention, and people think lines are great until you have to handle the line. And the beginning of the first times that we had lines, like we were literally working, like Chema, Santiago, myself inside, and I literally had to walk out and like kind of control the line and be like, okay, hold on 1 second. Like who wants to do takeout? Like how to make a line here? Who wants to do dine in? Make a line there.
And were you figuring that out as
the best we could live, right? And we started realizing like, okay, no, now we're going to have to control this. And we had so much bad feedback. I wouldn't want to say I don't know if I can say this in this podcast, but we got so much shit over our system, right? But it was meant to promote the right things, right? And we tweaked accordingly. We got a lot of feedback and we kind of tweaked and
like making the dough.
Yeah, you had to kind of. The difference is now you have 50 people screaming at you while you're making the dough. Like the dough is like a silence, but it's like it's the truth. It's like you are trying to. Part of what we do in hospitality, right? But what we were trying to do is get as many people as possible trying our pizza, and we would sell out. We got more people than we had pizza a lot of time. People sometimes complained, and even people in the industry, they would come from pizzerias and other places, and they would be pissed that it's like, why didn't you guys do more? And they don't realize how small the place is in the back. Like nowadays, we moved into a commissary. We're growing. Not only the capacity, it was 3 of us. It started 1 guy making pizza, then 3 guys making pizza. Nowadays, there's 20 of us working in this project, which is like an honor and mind-blowing and amazing. It's, we didn't, even in our wildest dreams, we didn't think this was going to turn out this way.
Okay.
Modesty aside, I did know at one point I realized that the pizza was special.
Okay.
I could see it in people's faces, but I tried it. I would either say, wow, this is good. The problem is, what I thought at the time is, can we do this?
Of course.
Can we do this at scale? At a shop. That's the name of the game. You can do one dish, but can you do it every day? And having partners.
You have somebody else do it for you.
That's where I'm getting to, no?
Yeah.
Then I thankfully have partners that sweat not because they're in front of the ovens, but like that sweat it out, and we push and we make sure that all of the concepts that we have, like La Latina, when we moved out of La Latina and Pepo was the only one now taking, or when we started having to work business aspects of the restaurant, and Chema having to take on like all of these, you realize how important those roles are. Being able to grow into and do this in Las Vegas, that you mentioned it. For us, it was a huge challenge. Can we do this in Vegas, right? How are we going to be able to make sure that if you go to the Vegas location, you have our pizza? Things like that, they sound very easy to do, but we all of us that are in the industry, we understand how challenging these things can be, no?
Absolutely.
Being able to grow a team, right, that can understand why this pizza is special, understand it to the point where they can now enforce those standards, that's the name of the game. And when you're able to communicate that to the customer, the guest, the guy that sits in front of you, I mean, our concept lends itself to this because you're sitting in front of our pizzero. He's telling you about it. He can tell you, you can ask questions and you kind of realize why it's special, but not because somebody's explaining it to you, because you're actually having this pizza.
Okay.
And so you need to have that behind, like that's what's substance.
Okay.
There's a group of people, not one guy, or it's a group of people that at a certain point that pizza clicks. Our joke is you can't untry it, right? That's our goal.
Okay.
Our goal is you can't untry it. Once you try this pizza, it has to be special, right? Unless you try it with the wrong cheese.
Exactly. And is it true that there's that thing like the secret Coca-Cola formula or something that only a few people have the actual recipe
With us?
of the dough?
Yeah. And for a very long time, it was only us partners making the dough. So that was a lot of work.
Okay.
We would, again, have to make dough in the mornings and then have service at night. So it was very challenging. Even the challenge of the cold storage for a pizza like ours that has a long fermentation. Like, how do you take on those challenges, even logistically? Like, there are little things that people sometimes don't think about because they don't have to think about this. They just want to go and have a slice. Yeah. And that's what it's about. Simplifying a complex process and a complex business behind the scenes has to be able to become the simplest of, I want to go out first. You want a slice?
Yeah.
Let's go get a slice. It's a slice, easy slice, in and out, boom. You don't have to come into Miami Slice and start thinking, wow, this is so amazing because of this, because of that. That's why you keep it based on the brand and on the pizza. You center it there and the experience, and all the rest has to play like second role, like a supporting role to that. So that's the idea, at least.
And how challenging was it to open in Vegas because you mentioned it was very hands-on, you guys do the dough, the partners and the founders are there, and then suddenly you are opening a second shop like miles away. How was that? And why Vegas and not New York or Chicago or a second location in Miami?
We've gotten that question a lot, and it's because when the stars align and the stars say, hey, you're opening in Vegas. You open in Vegas.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's I wish I could tell you it was a thought out plan or something. It's clearly not, right?
Opportunity showed up and you took it. All right.
A time and a place, and it was an opportunity that the Fontainebleau group was amazing in the way they approached the opportunity, let's say.
Okay.
At the time we had a private party. Dave Grutman, good friend of ours, comes in, brings Tom Brady, David Beckham.
Was there, no?
Yeah, it was a great night. And Jeff Soffer was also there. I mean, we're not from Miami. We don't necessarily know. There's other people there as well. David Einhorn from Papi Steak was also there. There's a group of people, right?
Okay.
Long story short, we didn't know who some of these people were, and we're as hospitable to them.
You just knew Tom Brady and David Beckham.
It's true. There's a lot of jokes on that one too. I did take advantage of that, and I was like, I mean, we used to joke and said, we can say we're successful because obviously David Beckham has the soccer team here.
Yeah.
We're soccer fanatics. I played soccer in college, so we're all big soccer fans,
Yeah.
of course. So it's one of those that we used to joke like, okay, when Beckham tries this pizza, that means we're doing things right. And that's why we said that to him. It's like, now you're here, man. So it's like, having Brady is amazing. I mean, are you kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
it's unheard of. Like, we would have never imagined something like that. And again, like the same way that Diego has introduced us to amazing culinary personalities, I mean, Grotman has been amazingly generous to us in the way that he likes the pizza.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. People sometimes ask, right? But the end of the story is, Mr. Stoffer tried the pizza and he just wanted it in the Fontainebleau,
Nice.
which was opening at the end of the year. So it was a lot of work. That's kind of what I'm saying. Like, you know, you have to stop making pizzas and you have to stop doing business things that require your effort to a level that you have to be completely concentrated so that they turn out well. I'm glad we're working with a team in Vegas, a Fontainebleau, that understands the value of having top-notch pizza and,
Nice.
and concepts within their property that are fit the way that they're trying to handle the hotel. It's been a successful story because of that, right? For us, at least for now, right? We open in December, so
Nice. And having learned, like, what did you learn from that process? Like, if an opportunity comes to you now to open in a different hotel in a different city, or just like a
we need another podcast for the learnings. So many learnings. I mean, it was just a lot of effort. Like between the partners, Santiago, Chema both spent a lot of time in Las Vegas. We would swap it. Like we'd swap. One of us was always there, and then one would come and the other one would go. I mean, I had a child. I had my first son, Alejandro, around that time, and at a certain period, I was 3 days in Vegas and another 3 days here, like just navigating.
And Alejandra
crazy
hating
situation.
you.
Alejandra hated me more than you want to hear, you know. It's like, no, she coped with it really well, but a lot of learnings in, how to approach certain things. There's also learnings that the learnings are not always bad. It's not like we learn so many things because we screwed up. No, but it's just how to prioritize certain things. Just making sure some things were landed before the others.
No,
had
and
to
I
get
guess now
taken
if
care of.
similar opportunity comes across, you have an educated approach to decide if it's a good opportunity, a bad opportunity,
Yeah.
what to ask, what's important, what's not important.
Yeah, definitely. And there's no business opportunity that comes without a rough circumstances that you're going to have to deal with, and there's a lot of learnings. Yeah, hopefully the next one. I mean, we've gotten approaches to develop our slice bar in other places, and yeah, it's been interesting how the optics have changed since that time.
And maybe a potential partner is listening. What does it take for a proposal to be considered? Like, what's the checklist of things? Like, okay, if it covers those 5, 6, or 15 points, we'll consider it.
I think chemistry is the top one. Just because you can't partner up. It's like a marriage, right?
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, I don't care who you. I mean, even if you partner with the best of your friends, it's bound to be. There's bound to be not friction, but there's bound to be situations that merit having a certain level of chemistry and openness where you can discuss these things and kind of manage them appropriately, right? So I would say that's top on the list, chemistry. And usually, if there's chemistry, then you're checking a bunch of boxes in the bottom, right? You're checking there's experience and you know what you're talking about, and also values have to be very aligned. Philosophy. It's almost like it has to be easy. If it's not easy, it's probably not going to work. So, and you know that, I'm not going to say early, but you know that fairly early in the conversations or in the process as you're kind of courting each other. And I'd say those are the priorities. Just making sure that you can't put the business, you can't put the concept to suffer for business reasons. Okay, that's the mindset. If you can handle that mindset, then you're likely a good candidate to discuss business, even if it's not pizza. We could be discussing other concepts as well. We're obviously in the business of creating concepts and finding what is the best fit for a location or a place or a city. If you are in line with what we all think could work in this corner, which is not the same as in the next corner, likely it's a good partnership potential.
For you, I mean, that's more important. Of course, you need to go into demographics, location, but if that's not given, then you wouldn't even look at the rest.
There's a feeling aspect to it. There's a gut feeling to it.
And if that gut feeling is not there,
it's
doesn't
tough to
matter.
justify it because, and it's happened before. We've had situations in businesses that we have thought are good opportunities, and they've turned out to be. It turns out that we're wrong. They've turned out to be not as great. And as long as you make the best decision you can with the information that you have at the time, and you can only do so much, right? So what happens with age that we were discussing our age before. What happens with age is you start being a little more, I guess, picky, or you have more than being picky, you start having a better eye for things. It's experience. You can't buy that. You have to earn it through ¿cómo se llama? Uno aprende a coñazo limpio.
Exacto.
Pero I'm trying to think how you say that in English.
You learn a coñazo limpio.
You learn a coñazo limpio. That's how you fucking learn. It's the truth, but yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. Jumping to, we talked about pizza, but you have another business, which was your first business here in Miami, which is La Latina.
Yeah.
And actually, I wrote each year I write a food trends article.
Okay.
And of course, we Venezuelans, we are like very self-assured that tequeño is the best thing in the world, and we're surprised why it's not taking over the world. But finally, this year I wrote, end of last year, I wrote that this year would be the year of the tequeño.
Wow, okay.
When it starts being served outside of Venezuelan restaurants, and you see it now all world. It's easy to say tequeños are popular in Miami or Madrid, where there's huge Venezuelan communities. But what about, I don't know, Memphis or small town in the UK, whatever. But I believe things are given for tequeños to start growing or getting more popular outside of those Venezuelan pockets, no?
Okay.
And of course, you have tequeños in La Latina, which is an arepera mostly.
Yeah, it is an arepera.
As a businessman, because you opened La Latina, at some point there was a location in a food hall in Julian Henry's. As a businessman who owns an arepera, do you think the business of the arepera can grow, can conquer other cities outside of Venezuelan pockets, Venezuelan communities? And what would it take for a tequeño, for a arepa, to become, we always say, like, oh, it's going to be like the next taco. That hasn't happened, no? And it takes years. Venezuelans started emigrating, like, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. So what would it take as a Venezuelan and as an entrepreneur, what would it take for arepas and tequeños to take over and be, like, popular?
That's a tough one because I'm trying to answer not from the heart.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? That's the truth. My initial perspective has always been, that it's a matter of time, right? But to your point, a lot of time has passed, and it's still very difficult to compete with, let's call it, with Mexican food, right? For example, which is also Latin food, and there's also Central American countries that have other foods that are, let's call them, ethnic in the same way, but they don't catch on as much as the Mexican food has, right? There's there's a lot of reasons in my mind for that. Not only is Mexico closer, the amount of people, just those kind of things, they bring awareness to these products. And so I think if we were to look at it from a very detailed perspective, there is probably a lot more awareness for arepas and tequeños now than there used to be 20 years ago. We haven't reached that tipping point, right? So what's going to take for that to happen? I think it's tough to say. I don't know if I want to say this on camera because I'm going to be wrong regardless, right? It's one of those, like, it's just going to be difficult. But the more people try it, what we've seen in a microclimate, let's call it, right? What we see in front of our face is whenever people, it's the same with the pizza, right? Like the tequeño, you can't untry it.
Yeah.
Once you try it, it's like, this is different.
Yeah.
Okay, catches on. People that have never had arepas, they try it, and usually, I would say more often than not, they really like the arepa. Like people that come in and have arepas, and I'm telling people, like from all parts of the world. Like not even no that they're from again, yeah, not Memphis or no. I'm talking all over the world that visit Miami and land in La Latina as a means of trying sometimes Latin food.
Yes.
Right. To your point, hence a good name. It's approachable. It's difficult to see. No, not even difficult. It's unlikely that they leave without liking the arepa.
Okay.
We usually see them like the arepa, right? So having said that, I think it's a matter of time. I don't know what this is. Okay, reggaeton wasn't mainstream until it was.
Yeah.
In terms of, I'm talking like almost like from a pop culture perspective, right? It just catches on.
Yes.
And maybe it takes a little bit of that. Being Latin is a little more in than it used to be, right? Just from again. Pop culture sort of perspective. So maybe it just takes one thing happening, like just one incident to kind of turn that around, because I feel that this is what I was saying. I think it has the potential. Like, do you ask me? I think it hasn't lost. I haven't lost faith in that, in the fact that could happen. But I do think it's an uphill battle, because you're competing with changing consumer behaviors for people that are going to have it as often as you probably eat barbecue, even though you love it. It's a specialty food.
Absolutely. And also, I think the good thing of the arepa, not with the tequeños, like gluten-free, it's kind of, you can have a healthy arepa.
Yeah.
You cannot have tequeño is not healthy by
At all.
nature. It's
That's true.
fried and has like wheat and everything. But yeah, I think that's another direction. Also, there's the element, especially with the Venezuelan diaspora,
Okay.
of that mindset of why I'm going to pay $12 or $10 for an arepa when I used to pay $2 back home, or I can make them at home and I'm not gonna.
We get some of those, but this is what I love. First of all, I'm glad not everybody makes them at home, and I think part of the reason is because most people that are in the States are working, man.
Yeah.
And so nobody has time to do. You can make an arepa. You can make the arepa. That's fine. But you're not gonna make carne mechada, and you're not gonna make
100%.
you're not gonna make shredded beef. Is what I was saying. You're not gonna make shredded beef. You're not gonna make the asado negro, which is like reina pepiada.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to. There's a lot of effort that goes to that, right? And that's part of what makes our business challenging as well, because it takes a lot of it's TLC.
Yeah.
You got to be able to do everything with care to make sure you get the right type of, let's say, fillings for the arepa in this case.
And also there's like many people try to do like the McDonald's of the fill in the blank, no?
Yeah.
And I know firsthand like people who have tried to do, I'm going to do the McDonald's of the arepa. And you have like all these different techniques, like I'm going to freeze them and then reheat them, or no, they're going to fry it, or, like you're working on all those tests and trials and everything of how to mass produce something without losing quality. And
That's what I was about to say. Like, the asado negro is a we call it a black beef roast, but it's basically it's like sweet in sort of flavor. But my whole point is you can't really McDonaldize the asado negro. It's very tough if you want to get a good quality.
Exactly.
So you can make an arepa, but what you usually fill the arepas with, they just take a lot of effort.
Yeah. By the way, speaking of that, we at home we do the arepas. We call it the Nevet technique. Thanks to a friend Moises Nevet, who's a friend of Paola living in London, and he has a technique which is, since I learned it, that's how we do arepas at home.
Okay.
That basically it's you do the dough.
Okay.
You shape it. You put it in a pan. In the broiler, but like super close to the broiler, like the higher shelf in the oven, with the broiler on. 8 minutes, turn it around like 4 more minutes. It's perfect, crispy, golden.
Does it inflate a little bit? No?
It doesn't. Very soft in the inside, crispy in the outside.
We're gonna try it out.
I'm like why like this could
Why
be
is
the
nobody
base-
doing this?
Yeah, why this could
Okay.
be the base of mass producing arepas like fast and like
Let's
freshly baked. I don't know.
Come to let's try that one. Come
Maybe-
to La Latina
but
this
let-
weekend.
Yeah, but let's
You
cut
can
the
come to the
part.
2 a.m. shift. You can be there at 2 a.m. We do all the.
Amazing,
See how-
amazing. And I
don't know why.
publicly with Moises, we won't tell him it's his technique.
Please, we're gonna have to be paying royalties. Nah. But yeah,
Right.
you can make the arepa at home, but making the fillings is super complicated.
Absolutely.
We actually have, which this came out during the pandemic, La Latina Lista, which is the fillings already done,
Like vacuum
packed. You can
Amazing.
you can take these home, and it's very easy. You can make the arepa at home, and you just fill it with. It's very easy to
Nice.
reheat. It's a good idea. It's worked out well. People like
Amazing.
it. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, it's one of those things. I don't want to say positive things of the pandemic, but a lot of businesses like created those or pivoted to those services and products that maybe you thought about it, but you didn't put that much effort, or didn't think they
Yeah.
would be profitable. But
It's circumstantial.
yeah, now you
Like,
cannot probably live without
without it.
Yeah,
That's true. Yeah.
Amazing. Now, enough about business. Let's talk about more personal stuff. I know you just had a baby. You're running like 3 businesses, but you have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or lunch and dinner if you are one of those how to say fast.
Yeah, I don't need-
fasting all the time and everything.
I don't need too many times a day.
I can imagine. I can imagine. When you have time, what do you enjoy? Like, what's happening in Miami that's exciting for you? Or if you travel, I know you go to New York sometimes. Or even when you go to Vegas, if you have time.
Yeah.
What gets you excited these days, food wise?
I kind of figured you were gonna ask something like that. Yeah, I haven't had a lot of time to travel much recently. It's been mostly to visit family, whether it's in Caracas or my brother, my mom, and my older brother in New York. So yeah, that's most of the traveling in Vegas. I mean, you said it perfectly well. You hear this a lot. Fatherhood changes your life,
Yes.
Yeah, it happens faster than you think, I mean, it hits you pretty hard.
I know.
As you can imagine, I'm not traveling much for fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's always good to go to cities where you can see things that are, go out. It gets me excited going out and seeing the energy of these cities and going to places that are doing things well and tasting what they're doing. My brother always has a few spots that we have to go hit.
In New York.
In New York,
Okay.
yeah, definitely. The from the classics, and I want to say we were just there for the top 50 pizza celebration ceremony.
You were there, no?
We got amazing. We got the top 5
No way.
pizza slices. They have a new category this year, which is pizza by the slice.
And you are
And so I
number
did.
5
We're number 5
in
which is
the
pretty
nation.
fucking amazing.
Good.
Yeah. There you go.
Amazing.
Oh, 9 up.
Wow.
We couldn't believe it. So we got invited to that. We traveled there. It's a few days, rushing in and out, just trying to, and you end up having time to, I want to say the classics from like Katz Deli,
Yes.
Russ and Daughter, just like just in that area. But also, my brother always has a few spots to go to. From like Bar Picelino, like little spots like that, or Bouvet, or I've actually he surprised me once with a reservation to Fort Charles, which is one of our favorite restaurants. It's amazing. It's just an amazing experience, and those are amazing. But most of the time, what excites me more about New York is the little spots that you didn't know existed, and you walk by them, and you discover them. Right.
And when you travel, you search for like the best slice shops, or, not, or you want to get away with it.
Well, I want to say the last time, not like one of our trips to New York, we had pretty much all the pizza, like all of us partners. We went over there and we tried like 17 pizzas in 3
Wow.
days. Crazy, but it was great to get a feel for what was there. But we already had our pizza. It's not like we went to see how we were gonna craft.
Okay.
No, it was more so we already had our pizza. It was more so like, let's see what's up.
Yeah.
And we
I like l'industry.
it's a good pizza.
Very nice.
Very nice pizza. Mama's too is a good pizza. There's the list is long, obviously. What gets me enthused about New York is discovering places that are that are new and that are fun that you never knew were there.
Yeah.
And that usually, most of the time, if they're good, they have people behind them that are amazing.
Yes.
You just don't know about them yet. Okay. And I remember when I lived in New York, en la época que fuiste a visitar, en esa época, I was living with my younger brother in New York at the time. And I remember there was a ramen place in East Village. We used to go. There was no line, nothing like that. And it was Momofuku.
Wow.
Okay. We used to go to this place. It was great. I didn't even know who Dave Chang was. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't care. This is the truth of the matter. I was young. It was 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So, but I remember that place, for example, distinctively. And I remember the best Linzer tarts. Old lady, 80 years old, doing the cookies.
Wow.
I remember friends coming to visit. And after, we'd go... Basically, walk around like, you want to try the best cookies in the world? Like, let's go try the best cookies in the world. We would go to try these. She's no longer there. I don't know where she went. If somebody finds, like they were on, I think it was 11th and 2nd Avenue. If somebody finds her family, best cookies ever. Polish, Linzer tarts. They had a half cookie was the shape of the banana, like a half a banana covered in chocolate. Little things. It was very homey.
Okay.
But the quality was excellent.
Wow.
Like outstanding. And it would be outstanding to anybody that would come and try them. It was like wow. We used to buy them by the dozens. They were big Linzer tarts like that. So little things like that were amazing. And not only did we not have the budget to go to the fine dining restaurants, we just didn't. And it was more so about finding little places where you could, and the list is long, right? And I want to say in the East Village or in Lower East Side or wherever you were walking around, you would find places that had a special dish that made it like that was really nice.
Nice.
And we've all grown, of course, but you still kind of carry that same mindset. So now in Vegas, for example, we'll go to Vegas and we'll try a lot of the restaurants, and we're usually impressed and amazed, like the restaurants that are there. I mean, the list again. But the restaurants, even in the Fontainebleau, which we spend a lot of time in, you know what I mean? It's one of those like you're literally working when you're there. It's not the same to go to Vegas than to go work in Vegas. It's not the same.
And there's what's the name? Just was there and they went to a taco place, like a super popular legit
Tacos El Gordo.
Tacos El Gordo.
That's an experience, for example, right?
Yeah.
It's like Cats in Las Vegas
Exactly.
of tacos.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
and then Lotus of Siam is always good. The classic.
Yeah. Those is. And we go out. There's places where we're glad that some spaces open late, like Raku opens late, and like you start discovering some of these places. And we've had there's still places that are on the list that we haven't been able to hit. Like there's there's other pizza shops, 00 Pub and Pie that's there. It's their local scene. Nice. We want to go over there and like check them out. We haven't even been able to go, sort of thing. So, hopefully we'll get a chance to keep traveling and keep. I mean, anytime. The difference thing is this is what's changed for me, and it should change for you too. By the way, anytime I travel now to any city, my first call before I go is Nidal. Where do I gotta go? Give me the list. No, it's true. It's first of all, every city is evolving, and if you were to come to Miami now, I mean, there's so many new places all the time. So it's really good to have kind of access to somebody who's really in tune to what's going on in different cities and being able to ask and say, where should I go for different things?
Absolutely.
And sometimes it's,
Sometimes I ask people to fill like a brief because they tell me, hey, I'm in New York. Where should I go? Like,
te gusta?
Dude, you gotta,
What do you like?
you gotta narrow it down. Like, I like location, budget, kids or no kids. Type of cuisine. Okay. Okay, here's 3 places for that.
That's the truth. Yeah, it's important. Yeah. That's what happened. That's how they got me in love to move to Miami. The Hungry Post. That's how they got me. Where do you want to go? Okay.
Exactly. No, amazing. And what's next for you now? I mean, it's been a roller coaster, opening places, traveling a lot, having a baby. I'm sure like people would love to see more La Latinas, more Miami Slice in Miami and outside of Miami. What's next for you guys?
I think that's a great question because there's so much uncertainty in this kind of in our industry that it's a challenging one, right? But it's a good question, and we've kind of positioned ourselves to grow. as a group, right? As a hospitality group. Manuel, one of our partners who you know well, obviously good friends with Paola as well. We're dedicating a lot of effort and a lot of time to kind of figuring out how we're going to grow. And we have a concept and we have a pizza that merits, some degree of focus. So we have a lot of conversations as partners internally, like all of us, all 5 of us. There's 5 of us operating partners. I think I've mentioned them all: Manuel, Chema, Alberto, Santiago, and myself. And we have a lot of conversations over how we're gonna, what's next, right? So we do have some concepts that we developed before kind of this whole situation with Miami Slice Arroz. So we're dedicating some time to those, dedicating some time to La Latina in its own path, and also really about to put the foot on the throttle for Miami Slice because
Are you getting a lot of requests to open in different locations?
We want to open a second location for Miami Slice in Miami as soon as possible.
Okay.
I think Miami has been a tough city to navigate from a real estate perspective. Just finding spaces.
You cannot say what I can say. Like, prices are crazy, rents are insane.
Yeah.
I mean, that needs to change.
Well, and I think there's some pressure that it will change a little bit, but also Miami is very particular in the amount of people that come here and want to try. And now we're getting more out of state attention or out of country attention as well. And so it's a challenging, scene to navigate. But our goal and our next goal is to open a next Miami Slice as soon as possible. And you understand, and this is, I guess, it's almost important. I do want to kind of shed light to this. The lead times, like the timeline as you try to open a restaurant in Miami specifically, they're lengthy. Usually, just the different processes that you have to go through, permitting and all that, the construction if you need the remodeling.
Is a very decent word.
I'm a decent guy. No, it's the truth. Yeah.
And also you have an advantage because I know, and we'll take out 21, 22 were unreal years for Miami's restaurant business. They were very I tell everybody who owns a restaurant, if you didn't make money those years, find another job because those years won't go back. They were amazing. But taking those years, yeah, taking those years apart. Yeah, Miami is very seasonal. Some restaurants are struggling with staff and high rents, and maybe during the summer not having that inflow of people that's usually there in the high season. You have an advantage of having a strong local base. It's a ticket that it's affordable. I mean, people might not be able to go to a nice place, spend $150 on a nice dinner, but they can buy a couple of slices of pizza. But have you felt that seasonality this year at least?
I think everybody in Miami and everybody that I've spoke to, the colleagues, people in the industry, I think we've all felt it. You feel it different depending on the location, depending on how. I mean, the truth is, it's also very hot in Miami, so it doesn't lend itself to eating at our terrace, for example. But I mean, thankfully, we have a concept that is, like you said, we have a solid local following. People like the pizza. So do we feel it? Yeah, we don't have the lengthy lines that you have in the wintertime, let's say, when there's a lot of people traveling and visiting Miami, but also you can have a line beer, no problem. It's you could be outside and that's a fun time.
Nice.
And definitely it's seasonality in Miami, I think, was always around, whether it's you feel it more or less. There's some macro elements that have a big play on that.
But you would say your next step would be open a second Miami Slice in Miami.
Yeah, we want to open a second Miami Slice in Miami that can allow us to kind of provide the same slice bar experience and at the same time kind of make the quiero pensar en qué palabra voy a usar en esta rápidamente. So we want to be able to provide the same slice bar experience, and at the same time accommodate more people and just a few other experiences. Just make it very easy to get the pizza that you like.
Okay.
So it's not.
And if you have to daydream, like opening Miami Slice in any city in the world, like
Hell yeah.
as you wanted, like where would you dream to have? Okay, have a Miami Slice in that place, maybe in a
Hell
specific
yeah.
neighborhood. Tough one.
I think it's a very tough one because I'd like to have a few. Because wherever you have one, you're gonna go. You know what I mean?
Alright,
You're gonna
yeah,
be going.
Exactly.
Oh, we could take. You can go to Paris. I can go to
Okay.
Paris a few times a year and not complain
Take care
about
of
that. You know?
business.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
there would be a fun place.
Company paying for the trip and
Yeah, you know,
Yeah,
you can eat. I can eat. I'm a big fan of French pastry.
Okay.
So I could see myself. You know,
And you have
waking up in Paris a few days a week.
The pizza with croissant dough. That was horrible. I hope they don't cut this joke. So you would like to open in Paris? That would be like a nice.
I don't know.
dream.
You put me in a position to choose, but yeah, I think it'd be a good city to have to travel to. You know.
Nice. Beautiful.
But,
yeah, I mean, good way to think about it.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to open in Italy. If you know what I mean. You want to be, you want to be close enough. You don't want to have that level of competition.
Great. Well, Alejandro, it was great to talk to you. I don't know if there's anything
It's my pleasure.
else you wanted to share.
I want to thank you, man. This is amazing. I told you off camera, but I'm not surprised that you're doing something like this. So I hope it's successful and you get
Thank you, and thank you
I
guys.
trust it's gonna be.
No, thanks, and thanks to you and your partners for creating more spaces in Miami to have good food, good vibes, for putting Miami's name in the map. Congratulations on that fifth place on the best slices in the country.
Miami has been really good to us in the sense. I mean, we felt at home, and a lot of people in the industry were just thankful to meet cool people all the time. And we still owe you an invitation. Most of the time with the baby, especially the last few months, my cooking has been done at home. You know, so we have that invitation pending.
And that we're not gonna cut that part, so I can
So you
I
can
can play
use it.
I can play it each time we meet. Well, thank you, Alejandro, for coming, and
pleasure, man.
see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for listening to us. It was a pleasure to have Alejandro here. Keep coming, keep listening to us. The idea is to share those stories with you. This is One of Each. My name is Nidal Barake, and hope to meet again soon. Bye.